Hey, welcome back to another episode of Revealed Apologetics. I'm your host, Eli Ayala, and today I have a good friend with me on to discuss something really, really interesting. I've got multiple requests about um, using Bahnsen's material, Greg Bahnsen's material, incorporating it somehow with AI. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is actually super, super fascinating, and I'm very happy to have my good friend Joe Petruzzi here to kind of walk us through what he's developed that I think is going to be very fascinating and useful for folks. Just imagine this. Imagine you're studying apologetics and you have a question. You're like, oh man, maybe you're listening to a Bahnsen lecture or something like that. And you're like, I really wish I could just give Greg Bahnsen a call and see what he thinks about, such and such idea or concept. Well, that's actually not completely impossible. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that's actually possible. And I have my good friend here to kind of walk us through that. So Dr. Greg Bahnsen was a renowned Christian apologist, philosopher, and seminary professor, and his life's work is now at your fingertips with Bahnsen U. Bahnsen U aims to bring seminary-level education to every Christian anytime, anywhere, absolutely free. Gain access to over 140 courses covering theology, apologetics, eschatology, and law, featuring sermons, seminary lectures, and more from the legendary Dr. Greg Bahnsen. Now, if you sign up today at apologiastudios.com and join over 13,000 users already benefiting from this incredible resource, you will not regret it. And soon, they're expanding with Bahnsen U Plus and Bahnsen U Live, bringing fresh supplemental learning and real-time engagement. Again, go to apologiastudios.com and start your journey today. Before we get into that, Joe, can you kind of just say hello to everyone and tell folks who you are, what you're all about, and you could even go into how we know each other as well, and then we'll kind of jump right into the nuts and bolts of this discussion.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Yeah, well, I'm Joe. So I am actually attending the same church as Eli. So we're at least close in that. Definitely in that proximity. I like to call him a friend, but we'll see where he lands with that. But
that's terrible.
We'll see. Like I think we're at friend level, but I think it's a big deal because he's good friends Apology at 10K subscribers. Like I like to do it just to be like, I know a guy, you know what I mean? I know one of the big dogs.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I definitely see you as a friend, man. That's
yeah. No, but we know each other for a couple of years. Eli's just a funny background. Eli actually was the first one that basically, hard closed me on Calvinism. I thought, which is interesting. I was an Arminian when we first met. He gave me James White's the Potter's Freedom, I think it was, that book. Okay. And then I was like halfway through that, I asked you some follow-up questions, and then finally I was like, man, dude. And then I watched Jeff Durbin's. Him and James had a series on the Doctrines of Grace from 3 or 4 years ago. I watched all those, and then by the end, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm in. But Eli's been tremendous. Blessing my life theologically, especially because we've been in the same proximity. And as for me, I have a family, young kids. I have my own business. Just do boring, marketing stuff. But I love apologetics on the side. And I actually got into this. I was saved about 6 years ago. I'm a pretty recent convert. I'm in my late 20s now. So I was an atheist at the time of converting. So when I converted, I was really like, at the time I was an engineer. So my mind was very skeptical. Like hey, hold on a minute. Let's make sure. Or I'm always like, what if this, what if that? So for me, it was very important for me to look at evidence and back myself up. And a lot of my friends, even around me at the time, were like, "You don't believe in that, do you? The Bible is corrupted, all the normal stuff." So I had to kind of build it up. So for the first few years, I was really into evidentialism, and it was a lot of the evidence stuff was a blessing for me internally. I was like, "This is great to know." There was confirmation. Sure. But then I think what was happening, I was trying to apply it to evangelistically, I had people online or even family members. I would think all right, all I have to do is show them all this evidence. I'd even plan it ahead of time. If I could just do this and this, my my so-and-so, whatever it is, cousin, brother-in-law, what you name it, I can convert them with this. That was a very bad mindset. So I think when at that time though, that's around, I was actually writing I was writing my notes out to try to build this big library of evidence. And my friend on LinkedIn, we met online, and he was like, "You ever check out Bahnsen? I know you're in apologetics." I'm like, "No, check out the Bahnsen versus Stein debate. Let me know what you think." And so at first I'm like, I think I was like, the audio is so grainy. I don't know if I'm gonna get through this whole thing, right? But I started, but I'll skip. And the funny thing is, I happened to skip just to get get to other parts of it, and it landed on the logic part of the debate where Bahnsen basically saying, hey, like guys, like you can't even, like, the fact you're using logic right now, you're already, presupposing the Christian
Sure.
worldview, like that kind of. And that was my big, like, what? Like, that, rewind that tape. I was like, it was the first time I realized, like, that whole premise of, like, wow, like, there's actually unbelievers borrowing things from the Christian worldview. It's not like we're all just the neutral ground. So then that's when I got into Bahnsen, and I started going into, like, all right, and that Apologia was definitely one of the first ones. I think they had Bahnsen U at the time, like right around then.
Okay.
So I went into that, YouTube sermons, sermon audio, and I was just binging it, like just apologetics, theology, anything he had, because I just thought like his take on things was just like very good. I'm not a Presbyterian, obviously. That's probably the only thing we didn't agree on, but everything else is pretty much.
Okay.
You're a Reformed Baptist too, but
Yep.
but yeah, so I loved it, and I think what happened is, though, at that time, for some reason I forgot why, but at the time, like, I just had more like time in my, like, personal time, because I think I have one kid, that's why.
Yeah.
So that's why I had my sermon time to, like, listen to stuff. But then
Sure.
life got busier, man. And I was always looking for, like, all right, I'm not able to listen as much. I can't just sit down and, like, study. I don't have that kind of time all the time. So how do I get this to go quicker? And then I stumbled upon, this is like after ChatGPT, probably like 2022 or 3. A lot of tools are coming out of the market that were making it really easy to basically, you can make an open source AI agent. You don't have to, like, you can use ChatGPT, of course. You guys have seen that, but there's other tools that make it a lot better, where you can make your own AI agents that are basically trained on a specific set of material, and they still use some, like the models. You got to be careful. This isn't like, but it's a lot better than just going to ChatGPT or Claude and saying, hey, like, what do you think of
Sure.
Romans 1? It's not gonna go as well, right? So at the time, there was a few, and I use, like, I can share like what tools I've used for all of these, but the tool I was using at the time basically came out, and it was more for, like, it was very good for, like, if someone had a lot of knowledge, and if you wanted to get their specific knowledge on their algorithm, and their algorithm wasn't like ChatGPT. The way they do it is they basically take out what the content you had and all the training it has. It looks at how you actually answer the question, and it actually is a mixture of what has he already said, which is that is something content, but it's also how would he answer this. And there's actually some questions that I couldn't find an explicit sermon or, like, material from Bahnsen on, but I did know. I think I found out, like, in some other way, like what his stance on was, it maybe like through another source.
Sure.
And then I would ask the question, and it didn't actually cite anything, but it answered it, like, pretty similar to, like, basically what he would have said. Now, it doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but
Sure.
But that, when I found that one out, that's when I was like, well, dude, when I found about that too, I was like, well, I got to put Bahnsen here. We have all this content, like, YouTube sermons, like, there's so much I can put in here. So then what I did was I basically just trained 4 million words. It ends up being of his stuff, which is, like, weird to think about it in words, but
so
that's pretty much it.
So is it like a Bahnsen chatbot kind of thing that you've packed with all of Bahnsen's sermons, so that when you ask it something, kind of like what you would do with a ChatGPT, it's grabbing from those sources in, like, his recorded lectures and things like that?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
And with this one, because you can do this kind of thing with, like, on ChatGPT, you can make what's called like a custom GPT or project. You could just
Sure.
train it on some stuff, but ultimately it's still going to pull a little bit from its own, like, model. And you're going to have a couple, like, things that might happen where you ask it a question and you're like, how did you know that? Like, you're like, or you ask John Calvin something, but all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I think abortion. You didn't know what abortion is, man.
You ask John Calvin something and it gives you, like, a Leighton Flowers answer or something.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second.
That's when you know, it's not.
Choice meats. Calvin never said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think, yeah, but that's why when I was looking at these tools, like, this tool I found in particular, it was
Sure.
the only one that really had the ability to really zoom in on the actual content and almost build off of that, instead of having this model that just, like, only knows like this amount. So that's why I did it. Yeah.
So now, okay, so this is the whole thing with, like, AI and stuff like that. A lot of people are concerned with accuracy, and can you speak a little bit to the balance of, like, actually studying material, listening to actual lectures, and using AI? Like, what are some of the safety measures and checks and balances that people should consider, especially when you're dealing with things pertaining to scripture and apologetics? How would you tell someone, hey, these are great tools, but you want to be careful for these pitfalls?
Yeah, it's a good question. The obvious thing is, if you're using it, let's say like a Bahnsen AI bot, and it's helping you understand scripture, or it's helping you look at an apologetic, viewpoint, obviously you want to double check anything that references scripture. That's the first. So I haven't had a problem with the Bahnsen bot specifically on this, but I have had times, like, I always check though, because sometimes, like, again, it's really good if Bahnsen says something. Let's say, like, oh, Psalm 110 says this. This thing will actually it'll quote Psalm 10. Like, it does its thing usually with the ESV or the CSB.
Sure.
So, like, it does do that. So I'm always careful to always make sure if it says like, oh, this is why. Just check the scripture verse.
Yeah.
And make sure you understand. Like, I'm owning, like, as a person, I have to own my understanding of scripture. That's my duty, to God, to understand His word. So I think that's the major thing. I think another thing is how much we're using it as a tool versus outsourcing our own our development, right, of understanding scripture, and also just the world. Because I think, like, this actually happened. I'm happy to get into more of, like, the details of this, but we're obviously me and Ron, who we also go to our church. We're doing a Sunday school lesson on apologetics. We're actually going through Mark. Is it Farnham?
Farnham, yeah.
Farnham, yeah. Mark's book. It's great book. So we're going through his book for his course, and we actually trained some antagonist AI bots, like, so atheist, progressive Christian, and Islam bots. And our class was gonna
the language that has been developed surrounding is hilarious. Bahnsen bots, Islam bots.
Islam bots.
That is hilarious. Islam bot. The trains an
I know. I probably could have. There's probably a better way to say it. A Muslim bot, I guess. But
that's awesome.
But we did. We trained them because we wanted the class to, like, actually practice. And, like, it's not a real debate, but it's like, it's better because they're actually, like, they're aggressive bots. They're very, like, they'll call out objections. So it was a really good thing. They were going back and forth with it. But one thing that came up was like, hey guys, you're going to get our help, and you can actually use Bahnsen AI as well to help you as a co-pilot. And I said, you're probably asking, well, then why don't we just have Bahnsen fight the bot? But the problem is that's not their job. It's your job. So you got to and I think it's like having an understanding of, we can technically make this a really efficient system, but I think using AI, it's not about being absolute maximum efficiency. It's about us speeding up what we need to do, which is, like, either getting understanding, becoming better, and being always ready, and things like that. So I think in the context, like, of that class, for example, we had some people that were, like, the progressive Christian bot was stumbling someone, and we asked the Bahnsen bot, I think, about, like, a very specific thing about, hey, how would this progressive Christian think about the topic of judgment, right? Like, what would you call out if they denied hell?
Sure.
And they would give a specific, in that little statement I can use, but now when I'm going to engage with that person, I'm still going to, like, tailor a response to that person. But now I have a nugget. So I think it's more just using it as a tool. And I actually do this with work anyway. That for AI, I can't, like, outsource my entire business. Like, it requires human creativity. But I can speed up a lot of things. Like, I can get emails written. Like,
I think it's important to see if someone is going to use AI, it is something that's supplemental and should not replace your actual thinking. Like, I'm not against the importance of the long, difficult journey of study, but not everyone has the time to do that. So I do see the value in speeding up certain aspects of that process to kind of capture an idea. Okay, let me grapple with this idea, or help me to understand this a little better. I think that AI is misused when people use it as a substitute to think for themselves. In other words, they don't know something, they ask the question, they spits out an answer, and that's it. As opposed to allowing it to aid what you already know and maybe kind of give you a perspective you've never thought of before, or something like that. So there is an ethical element to this that we need to consider when using these kinds of tools. It's the same thing with the internet too. I mean, let's get rid of AI, for example. I mean, the internet was, people can say, nothing beats going to the library and taking out the book. It's like, well, now you can search it up digitally. It's like, yeah, it's a shortcut, but if you're using it as a crutch, it's going to be a problem. But if you use it to aid you in ways that streamline certain things that are kind of like grunt work that not everyone has time to do, I think it can be useful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I even think, like, the people that do that, like, think for me, it's kind of the equivalent of, like, if you're like, what's your end times view? And then you just, like, ask ChatGPT, like, hey, which one's right? And then they were like, post mill. And, like, I'm a post mill now. Like, it's like you didn't go through all the, versus me saying, look, man, I'm considering, optimistic on millennialism.
Right.
Let's do a ChatGPT deep research or a Bahnsen research. What's the steel man, on this? And then what's the good and bad cases you'd bring up? And then, like, looking at that, maybe getting the raw material or researching particular sources, but then taking a look at that and then saying, okay, this is what I think of it. So yeah, I think those are probably the two biggest distinctions I make, because it absolutely can be abused.
Now,
I agree.
now, when you showed me this Bahnsen chatbot thing, what I was amazed at was that you have the text version, so like you can kind of use it like a chat GPT, and then it draws on Bahnsen's material, which the two things that stuck out to me I thought was amazing was that when it gives you an answer, it actually has a link in the text that you can click on, and it will bring you to the Bahnsen lecture from which the chatbot got that information. So you could actually check the source. Do you mind walking us through that? And then we'll talk a little bit about the voice aspect, which I think is super cool. So number one,
Yeah.
it provides sources. And number two, the audience might not capture it so much in the audio here, but I've listened to the thing myself on like the phone. When you speak to the Bahnsen bot, it literally sounds like Greg Bahnsen, and maybe you can get into that a little bit later as to how that works. So maybe we can, if you can share the screen, we can show folks what this looks like, and maybe if you can go into a little bit of how people could access this. Is this something that's free? Is it something that you go to a website for?
Yeah.
Do they have to sign up for something like that?
Yeah, so my goal is like, so first of all, right now, you guys, if you're listening to this, you can go to Bahnsen.ai right now. In fact, I think I might have even, I'll refresh this. I think I turned logging in off, so I might turn that back on just so you guys can like save your history. But besides that, like there's no paywall on this. So my goal is to actually keep this free.
Okay.
The only thing,
let's get that on the screen there.
Yeah, there you go. You see it?
Yep. So,
yeah, so you guys go to Bahnsen AI. This is what it would look like.
This is the home screen that pops up.
Yep. Yeah. So you can chat right in. And essentially,
that's such a gangster picture. He looks so beast.
Yeah, I was like, well, it's like I have to make it like I can't just put his photo because I feel like it's like I can't say it's like literally
it's
him.
Not really.
So I'm like, I'll make a robotic-y, like like a more AI version of it.
Sure.
But yeah, you can go to this, and then I would say another thing, if you want to look for updates, you guys, I have a Substack, repentlabs.com. It's the podcast. I do like 4 episodes a year. But that's my email list where I'll be also bringing out. I'll probably be doing another product off of what we did with Sunday School, which is like the antagonistic AI bot thing.
Okay.
So people can like train on. So I would say like if you want to like just get more updates on it, repentlabs.com. But if you want to just use Bahnsen, it's just Bahnsen.ai. You can go to it today and start having fun. So yeah, this is the chat. So I think first, if you want on the text side, which is easiest, the first option there is just like ChatGPT. You can hit text here, and this is the screen. Of course, you want to you'll have your questions ready. So in this case, if we're following Bahnsen, we probably want to ask him a question that's like, hey, I'm studying something or whatever, maybe in your material.
Like, what's the transcendental argument or something like that?
Yeah, let's try it out. So here, I'll just do this.
Okay.
Explain the transcendental argument in layman's terms.
Okay, and so let's see. The transcendental argument for God's existence is like this. Imagine you're building a house. Now, real quick, because I'm familiar with Van Til, the building of the house example is actually very Van Tillian. So he's explaining it in a Van Tillian-esque kind of way. But Dr. Bahnsen has explained it in a similar way as well. But imagine you're building a house before you even start putting up walls or a roof. You need a solid foundation. Without that foundation, the whole house would collapse. Now think of human reasoning, science, morality, and logic as the house. The transcendental argument says that the foundation, the thing that makes all of these things possible, is the existence of the Christian God. And so he goes on and explains. Now, if someone asked a question, but they wanted to check the source,
I think this one, let's do another question, because sometimes what happens is if you have, like I said in layman's terms, right, he might not have explicit sources to that.
Okay.
So sometimes you won't get an explicit source because there is a level of content it's going to be looking for before it draws from a source.
Sure.
Versus just drawing from a content pool. So we'll try some other questions and see if it comes up.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do, what would you say if my atheist friend said that the Christian worldview isn't the only worldview that can make sense of reality, and that atheism is absolutely a good option?
All right. If my atheist friend made that claim, I'd respond by pointing out that atheism. I'll wait till you can scroll back up.
Sorry.
We won't read the whole response, but let's see here. If my atheist friend made that claim, I'd respond by pointing out that atheism as a worldview cannot account for the very tools it uses to argue against Christianity. Things like logic, morality, and the uniformity of nature. Let me explain why. Atheism says there is no God, and usually it assumes that everything we see and experience is just the result of random, unguided processes in a purely materialist universe. Now, of course, if you want nuance, you could always ask for nuance. Obviously, not all atheists are like metaphysical naturalists and things like that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with AI, the more specific you are, and it's going to be useful in terms of the what it gives you. But does this particular one give you kind of one of those footnotes there?
No, so I'll try one more. You don't have to read it, but the
Yep.
one we did before the show, I think it had it. So which was explain presuppositional apologetics. If not, we can come back.
Yeah, no
I
worries.
swear, guys, we had footnotes like before
Yeah.
the show. I think I get we have
Well,
the receipts.
when I used it, that was the thing that shocked me the most, that it actually had like links or whatever. That's odd that it's not doing it now, but
Yeah, it's
let's
so
see.
weird. Well, we can
Oh,
come back to
well,
it, but
go to the bottom. Doesn't it say citation there? Let's see. Okay.
oh yeah, so it does. Yeah, this is more of like maybe just the citations it used, but not like it's not enough of a piece of content to like say, hey, this is like from number 4. See, but just so you guys know, if there's a citation, it'll put it here at the end of the paragraph, like it'll number 4 or number 5. Basically, comes up on the same screen, but you can see when you click on that, or if you click on citations, this will actually go to what sermon it's referencing from.
Mm.
So then, if I click on this, for example, same exact screen, and then I can just hit play, and then I can actually just watch it right here, depending on what it is. This one in particular is a YouTube one, so I can actually watch it. If it was like a sermon audio, usually it would just link to a new tab.
Yeah.
But whatever the citation was, yeah, you can do it there. I'm trying to get the timestamp thing. I haven't been able to figure it out. I loved for just do the
That would be
timestamp of
cool.
the video.
Yeah.
That'd be like the sickest thing. But yeah, I was telling Neil, I think this is also good sometimes if you are, especially like earlier into Bahnsen's material, and then you're like, you ask it a question, you see those sources, and then you realize like he did a lecture on that. Like that's a good it's a good pointer to that, to like, oh, I should go listen to that and study on that.
Sure.
But yeah, that's high level in the text. Do you want to try the voice thing next, or do you have
Yeah. So the folks who are listening, you're not going to get the full experience because it doesn't come through in. I don't think it's going to come through in the same way. But when you actually listen to it on your own computer or through your phone, it sounds pretty much like Bahnsen when you're talking to it. Can you explain a little bit as to how that works? Like, how did you get it to sound, generally speaking, pretty Bahnsen-esque?
Yeah. Basically, the tool I use, it's called Delphi. Delphi is the platform that I use for this.
Okay.
They can basically take in raw material from video and audio and look at the actual voice, and then you basically just make adjustments and settings on how you want it to like talk. So I took, since there was I had a ton of video content, there's a ton of YouTube content of Bahnsen's lectures. Because of that, there was a ton of audio content to use as a base level, even though it's that grainy audio that we're used to from the old tapes, right? So because there was so much, it was actually it was all fairly similar. It wasn't like it was huge, like a 2010 version with like a nice mic or something. It was really good to mold it together. And then basically the settings I had were to make it, number one, to make it not very like he wouldn't like be super energetic randomly. Like, hey guys, presuppositional apologetics. Oh, it's this is how it works. Like I kind of like keep it nice and calm, slow and precise, so we can understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then just did a couple toggles and I tuned it a little bit. And yeah, and now I would say like it does sound just like them. And honestly, if some of these answers, you probably would just think you're listening to a lecture from them. It's the audio.
It captured when I used it. It captured well Bahnsen's cadence. I've listened to, oh my goodness, I think I've listened to almost every recorded lecture. That might not literally be true. I don't think I went through his Calvin's Institutes, which I encourage folks to do. I heard it's amazing. I've only bits and pieces, but I've got a good feel for Dr. Bahnsen's cadence and how he sounds, and I think it's pretty accurate. But again, when folks are going to listen to it here, they're not going to really capture it until they go and check it out themselves. It sounds almost like a younger Bahnsen. Bahnsen sounded a little different when he was like, there's some recordings when he was like in his 20s as opposed to like, later on when he was in his 40s. But nevertheless, let's try the voice feature. So is this kind of something akin to like making a phone call? Is it something akin to the audio feature in ChatGPT or something like that?
Yeah, so technically, in fact, I don't even usually have it on the.
Is Bahnsen sometimes not home? Like, what happens if you call him? He's like, sorry, if you reach this message, I'm off debating someone.
That's funny. He's no, yeah, he's there 24/7. And there used to be a button here. Maybe I toggled it off, so I'll check. I'll take a look at this. But I do have a phone number enabled for this. So if you got, I know what it is actually because I have login turned off. So once I'll turn that on tonight before this even goes out. When you log in, you'll have the chance to chat, but you'll actually see a text option to put your phone number in. And what will happen is, if you want, you can either do a voice call here, which we'll do on the web app, or you can actually get the phone number as a contact on your phone, and you can call it as a phone call.
What?
Which for most people is probably like the easiest thing to do. Oh, I'll just call Bahnsen. I'll pin his number to the top. I'm good to go. It's like so whatever we hear here, you can also do via phone in text. So.
Now, completely apart from Bahnsen, the awesome thing is that Delphi feature that you were talking about. They do this with a whole bunch of other historical figures, right? You got one for like the Greek philosophers. If you want to ask Saint Augustine a question, it draws from Augustine's works and things like that. Obviously not having Augustine's voice, since we don't know what he sounded like. But is that true? There are other ways to utilize other people's content, whether through books or videos and things like that.
Yeah, so I would say like the use cases are like, so Delphi is this tool. Delphi is really good for like when you have a lot for one person,
Mm-hmm.
and and you want like a little more precision on exactly like off of like the content they said, which I actually think is more important for Bahnsen because it was a little more contemporary, like you had video lectures and stuff.
Right.
So it made more sense to fill that in. And then the other tool I use is called Pickaxe, and Pickaxe is actually just it's basically a GPT builder, and you can use models like Claude, ChatGPT. Claude has a very good model for taking content and then like making it execute. Like it's very, very good. So what I actually did, which I showed you this, Eli, was you can go to this one too. This is called Fathers. Let me go to it now. Fathers.church. And we'll let it load. But this one I trained on some of the church fathers. So I had John Calvin. Here, let's go get started. Yeah, so we have Martin Luther, John Calvin, Thomas Aquinas, and Augustine. I haven't had the time to put more in. Of course, I will if I have the time. But in a very similar way, these don't have voice. This is only text, but you can actually ask a bunch of stuff like, explain predestination, and it'll go to it.
Now, what's the difference? If someone would be like, this is pretty cool, but like, what's the difference between this and ChatGPT? Is there anything that stands out in using this platform in terms of their particular kind of, someone wants to look something up or, get an answer relating to presuppositional apologetics? Is there a big difference, in your opinion, that makes this stand out a little bit for that particular purpose? Obviously, ChatGPT can be used for, you don't want to ask Bahnsen how to bake a cake or something, because that's probably not.
No, yeah. And I don't think he would say a whole lot about it. He'd probably talk here. Let's just ask him.
Let's ask it. Bake a cake. Give
me the steps on how to bake a cake. Like just from like step 1 to step 10. Like
from a reform perspective.
What are the ingredients? Like let's hear it.
Let's see. This is interesting. We're just having fun at this point. Let's see. I don't have any specific instructions or recipes for baking a cake in the information provided to me. However, I can tell you this. Baking a cake is kind of like constructing a worldview. You need the right ingredients, the proper method, and solid foundation to ensure it all holds together. Without the right starting point, like the truth of God in our reasoning, things will crumble, just as a cake without a proper recipe would fail. If you'd like, I could help you think through the ingredients of a solid worldview instead. So what's cool is that it stays focused on its material and doesn't draw in other things that might not necessarily be related to what you're looking for.
That's exactly it. I actually see that for this, and also like even tools when I make on Pickaxe, like it's the same thing, because the difference is just that this model out of the box is it keeps the context really well. Pickaxe, I just have to do a much more training on the prompts beforehand. So like the Calvin one, for example, I put all of Calvin's content that I could possibly find online from his actual original works. And then the prompt is it's just this huge thing I typed out, which is like keeping it very strict. Like you have to be like within items that were within the timeline of Calvin being alive. So if I see something like abortion, he's going to say, well, that was beyond my time, sir. But what I can tell you is, or like, if you have any content that wouldn't make any sense without the material, he'll say that, and also he only references things that are from his materials or from scripture.
So it's like talking. It's like talking to John Calvin as though it was John Calvin who had no knowledge of modern stuff. So like you're talking to a person stuck in his own context as reflected in his works and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say even simpler. It's almost like just talking to John Calvin's books. It's
Yeah.
almost like or Bahnsen's lectures because it's like even like his personal life. If something wasn't documented, he really can't like call it out in that sense. So,
Mm.
but yeah, that's the big thing. And the ChatGPT, like for example, ChatGPT, Claude, I love them. I think the reason why you go to that, generally speaking, is obviously for modern, contemporary, general purpose stuff, especially life stuff. Like how do I fix my whatever my HVAC system, like that, anything like that. I would say anything with theology, if you're trying to do like an AI kind of thing, let me find something quick, but it's like a theology question, I would go, whether it's my stuff or someone else's, I would go to something like this that's trained on the context of that specific thing, whether it's off of a person's material, if it's off of, some people have like Bible AI, like generic ones, like, but just make sure the content underneath is only that. I do like one thing I will say is that I've seen a couple of these before, the Bible, like I don't know if it's Bible AI, but like maybe that's the name. But like there's a couple Bible AI ones I've seen out there. It's always just good if there's using the foot, like in the footer, they'll have like kind of information what they train it on. Just make sure you get clarity on that because you want to know like where it's getting its information from.
Right.
And that's why with these, I should add that actually to the site. But with these, like I explicitly only train it on like material from these people. There's nothing else in there. And the prompts are extremely aggressive with like keeping anything else out. So that's why when you ask it questions, like it's not going to tell you, stuff outside of that.
And it's kind of also when it's narrowed to the person's work, you don't have to keep giving the prompt like in the tone of Greg Bahnsen and from his perspective,
Yeah.
and from his perspective, according to his published material that has you could have access on. How do you bake a cake? It stays focused, and you could just ask your question, already assuming it's going to come from something that he said in the past. And of course, like with everything else, you want to check the sources and things like that. But by the way, that should be a given. Even when you check like online sources and things like this, you always want to check your sources, cross-reference those sorts of things. But for quick answers or just breaking down certain concepts, I think stuff like this is very very useful. So let's take a look at
Yeah.
the audio feature, and maybe you can walk through how to put this on your. You know what? You could actually help me. I'll see if I could put this in my contacts. You can walk us through how to put it in the contacts. If
You
people want
can't
to.
do it live, unfortunately, because I have to turn on
Oh,
the
okay, okay.
logging. Yeah, but I will like right after.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll totally do that.
No worries.
But we'll do a follow up 5-minute clip episode of like here's how to edit. But
Here's
it's
how you
pretty
can
simple.
call.
Yeah, but yeah,
Go ahead.
it's super simple. You'll when you log in, you'll see like basically next to the call or text button, it'll be like a add phone number. It's like super simple.
Okay.
And then you just text it. That's pretty much it. But yeah, so if we do the voice, I'll click on this. It'll load. I'll just do start call, and you guys can do this at any time on the web app. And I'll ask some questions.
Hi, I'm Bahnsen AI. What are your beliefs? Atheist, Christian, Hindu, etc.
Well, I'm a Christian, but I do have one particular question. I have a friend who he's actually a Muslim. He just moved into our neighborhood. And I wanted to know if we were in a conversation and he had brought up how he thinks that the Quran is the inspired word of God and that I should worship Allah. What would be the first thing that I should present or bring up as a conversation starter, maybe to maybe begin to poke holes in his worldview and then gradually start to show that without the Christian worldview, he can't make sense of reality? What would you do in that?
First, I'd commend you for wanting to engage your friend thoughtfully and lovingly. That's the right approach. Now, when your friend claims the Quran is the inspired word of God, the first thing I'd suggest is to gently challenge him to consider whether his worldview can provide the preconditions for intelligibility. That's a mouthful, I know, but let me explain. The Christian worldview, rooted in the Bible, gives us a foundation for things like logic, morality, and science, because it starts with a God who is consistent, truthful, and sovereign over all creation. But Islam, while claiming to worship one God, presents a deity, Allah, who is so transcendent and unknowable that it undermines the very idea of revelation. The Quran itself teaches that Allah is so far removed from creation that human language cannot adequately describe him. Now, if that's true, how can the Quran, written in human language, claim to reveal Allah's will? It's a self-defeating position. You see the problem?
That's excellent, because if you
might
could
also
stop it
ask your
there.
friend whether he's read the Bible.
That's great, because because I've listened to Dr. Bahnsen's lectures on Islam. I don't know if the call also transcribes. I don't know if it does that, because I would imagine that it probably would give the if you ask this question in the text, it probably give you the footnote, the link, because Dr. Bahnsen
on
uses
my phone I can after
Yeah.
you finish a call. Like I've seen that come on the web app. I don't.
Yeah.
But I think on the phone you can see the transcript.
right, because
afterwards.
Dr. Bahnsen uses that particular critique, showing that if the Quran is true, it's false, because it teaches the type of transcendence of Allah that it undermines the Muslim position. So that's great. Yeah, that's excellent stuff, man. Now I wish that people, I mean, after this episode, people should check it out, because the voice sounds pretty good. I mean, you can kind of hear it come through. I mean, I can hear it in my headphones. It doesn't come as crisp as if I were just
maybe it's better. Maybe people are listening right now and they're like, Eli, like enough. Like this, it sounds great. Like it's just like it's like grainy, you know, like audio.
That's awesome.
So who knows? We don't know.
Yeah. So now, how do you use this in your personal study, or when you're out and about, or whatever? How does this function for you on like a day to day? Because do you work? Are you out a lot, or are you mostly working from home? Or
I work from home, but I mean, I would say this. A lot of the times, this can still come up when I'm out too, because like that's actually more of a reason why I actually don't have as much time. Like if I'm not, if I'm around with the kids, sometimes like I'm weird. You can ask Kenny, my wife. Like I have these random thoughts, like we're at like a Bass Pro Shop or something. I'm like, how would I deal with that objection? That's a really good point. Like, I'd see something on Substack randomly or something. So this stuff comes up, and this is actually a good use case for like, I can actually just ask it, just get a basic like surface level answer, and not even look at much of it. And I can skim it and be like, oh, that's right, I remember that. I can even get like a recollection almost of something I might have heard before. But yeah, I would say Bahnsen, the use case for me mostly is pretty much the apologetic front. Now, obviously, Bahnsen was very well rounded. You can ask him a bunch of theological questions, like the systematic theology questions. Like I've asked him stuff like that before, so it's not like it's on all of Bahnsen's content. But I think my biggest thing where I think it shines though is like, hey, this person said this. This is what it seems they believe about reality. What would you respond, or what would be your first thing? And then usually it's like, here's my first thing, and then I can ask it follow-ups like, hey, like I understand that, but like I don't think that's what he's saying. I think what he's really saying is this, and continue to give him more specific context. So finally helps me respond. I did this once on Substack last year. I had this big comment thread. I wasted too much time on it. Obviously, it was when I had one kid, and I have two now. But but I was going back and forth. But this guy brought up like one point, and I was like, I feel like I know like what Bahnsen would say, but let me just. And I tested it out, and then it gave me an answer. And I basically edited it and cut it a little bit, and I pasted it back on Substack. And then we kept going back and forth. It was a good exercise though, because it helps me like. I remember things, and it brings up points that I don't always have the time to learn from. Like you remember that from his lecture, that the one about Islam.
Sure.
You might not have, right? You might have been like, hey man, like I watched a bunch of them, or hey, oh that's right, he said that about evolution. So I would say definitely like random stuff online, and then even like I'm out and about. Sometimes I just have like thoughts. I'm like, how would I deal? Or if I have my own doubt too. I mean, so in fact, I even asked this the other day. I was looking through like, the nature of faith and evidence as a kind of like a topic. Like I was thinking through. And I was like, hey, like Bahnsen, like what would be the order of like, faith versus evidence? Like, how would you explain it? And like, this did a pretty good job trying to simplify it off of Bahnsen's lectures. And then I would say the second thing, which I would say I use this one, I use a lot more at fathers.church. I know it's not what this is about. This is also free. I use this more for my theology stuff. If I'm like doing like, especially like John Calvin, I'll just do like my Bible reading in the morning. And then I'll be like, reading through like whatever First Kings something, and then I'll just paste it like Calvin, like what would like just exegete this for me, and then like or like hey, this seems like how would you explain this to someone that thought that like this particular thing was like evil or is this a contradiction, like Bible questions like that. And so far the John Calvin one and sometimes the Martin Luther one has been like I think they just been my favorite because I just think I like the context they're in. They've already, they have a ton of stuff behind them, and then they're just writing. So I think they have a really good take on that. But obviously, I could ask Aquinas and Augustine too. But these guys are just like these bots are just a lot more for theology specific. I would find so that's the main use cases I use them.
Yeah, how sophisticated can you get with some of the questions that you could ask? I mean, if someone were to, I don't know, if someone were to say, "Can you explain to me the different options there are in properly understanding the different views of the ontology of logic?" Like, how would it answer something like that? Does it do good with very complicated and complex questions?
I think complex questions, yes. I think it really comes down to if the material itself, if the answer to it is out of the zone of the content. That's the biggest thing. I would say these ones I know I definitely have like a very large input window that you can put in. I don't know the exact characters, but I've put in some pretty like lengthy, questions in this one. And then Bahnsen as well. Even the one I did the other day, I remember I was actually on a walk and I was just like doing a voice to text. It was a very long input. I gave it a ton of like unstructured text, basically. Like I was like, hey, you know what I mean, Bahnsen? Like, it's like filler words and then also really complicated questions after that, and it still takes it in. So I think I would say these, you don't have to just be like explain Presup. Like you can give like a pretty good answer or input, like a pretty good length, and it'll do a lot with it. And if you think it like forgot something or whatever it is, you can just build upon it too. Like if maybe it answers like most of your question, but like there was one thing you asked about too, and maybe you didn't pick it up, you could say, okay, I understand that, Bahnsen, but remember when I asked this, my specific problem is, what would you say to him if this was the only thing that you had to say to him? Like whatever that thing is missing, and then it'll pick it up. So I think these tools are pretty nimble with that, and how big the input is, and also continuing the conversation and getting more context like as you go with them.
Yeah, excellent. Now, in terms of being practical and making sure that we think of these things in the proper context, can you kind of unpack for us? I mean, we talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but the warning signs that we should look for with AI in general. I mean, these tools are super helpful, but they obviously have risks like every technological advancement, right? Can you speak a little bit more to that? And obviously, this is a super helpful resource. Folks can use it. It's great that it's free. But what are some warnings that you would share with my audience about AI, this tool in general, and maybe AI in general, that you can kind of give us to think about, even while benefiting from things like this?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I refreshed it because I was trying to look for the banner when you open a new tab. The first thing it says up top, which is Bahnsen is not a replacement for the Holy Spirit. Godly people at your church or a local church, use it as a tool. That's the warning. And every AI bot you guys can look online, they have some sort of warning of like it might give you wrong answers. So I actually think the more even with contexts like Bahnsen and in the church father ones, where you have a very specific context of content trained on it, there's still this element. Even if it's a small window, is that 10-15%, you have to consider that it is a bot that is generating off of mimicking something. It's not actually thinking. It's not, it's not them, right? So there's this element you have to take in mind, that if there's an answer given to you, you can't just rest in that.
Right. Bahnsen told me when I was talking to him on the phone, like, no, you weren't talking to Bahnsen, you were talking to a chatbot and blah, blah, blah. So yes, making that distinction, I think, is very important.
Yeah, that's exactly. I've been tempted about this too. Sometimes like Calvin, like the Calvin bot, like I'm doing like a scripture reading, and I'm like, that's a banger answer, man. That's like I didn't know you even wrote about it in your commentary. And then I'm like, hold on. And then I will look up a few things, maybe ask another bot, and then I get a different take, and I'm like, oh, actually, that's a good argument. So you can't, I'm even tempted with that because it's easy to get an answer. It's great to get answers, but you can't take every response dogmatically. And I would say this is even worse, especially though in the mainstream language models, which is like OpenAI, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. They're not going off of specific context, and I would say that to use them honestly. Honestly, I would not use them for anything with interpreting scripture. At best, what I would do, which I've done in the past with like Claude, for example, or ChatGPT deep research, what I'll do is I'll say, I'm looking for a Reformed Baptist perspective within this particular tradition, or I'm looking for someone who's pro this, and these are some of the guys you can look for. What would they say and what would they cite about this particular topic maybe? And that might be where we get into theology, but it's just ChatGPT saying, here's what these people said. It's not like generating a response for me. Mm-hmm. I think that's the only time I'd get there. And I do that usually for my podcast if I need to get sources. I did this too the other day with my part of my podcast is my episode is going through LGBT and the consequences of what's happened in America by LGBT spreading. So I want to get a bunch of sources about hey, we've reaped what we've sown. Being a homosexual lifestyle leads to actual things that happen in life. It's not just an eternal thing. So I was looking through sources. So I basically said hey, ChatGPT, deep research, here's what I'm looking for. This is my perspective. Give me the sources you would use to show some of these problems that I already knew, obviously existed. And sure enough, I got this amazing PDF doc with 58. I couldn't even use all of them. It was great. And then I took all of that. I got to summarize it. I then took that, and then that was the ground material for me to actually record that part of the episode, with my voice, because I had the stuff in front of me. So I think that stuff is great when you're just saying, "Hey, Mr. AI bot, can you do something for me that is for speed and collection, and if it's going to generate something, it's something that's the stakes aren't that high."
Yeah.
When I write an email campaign for a client or something, like the stakes are high. They're paying me. I'm not saying that. Sorry to my clients that are watching this. I'm not saying that. But I can get an email, written 95%. I can look at it and say, oh, let me tweak that. Like I wouldn't say it like that. It's a quick tweak. I can still QA it and then done. But what I've done is I've saved 3 to 4 hours. Right. That's worth it. The stakes aren't that high. We can just. But the problem is, if I ask ChatGPT with no other context, what do you think of what Revelation says about this, right? And I try to, and it actually gives me a generated response from whatever pool, God knows what it is. The stakes are high because if I'm someone who is weak in this AI sense of like, hey, whatever they say, I can trust. I'm really getting to ChatGPT. I might take mistaken theological frameworks and actually get pagan frameworks. Really, I mean, ChatGPT isn't a Christian bot, as we all know. So you might get these things. And this happened. I tested this out with Claude. I said, like, what's your stance on abortion? Or so, it was something like that. And it was like, hey, we don't want to talk about that stuff, whatever. And then I was like, yeah, but I kind of pushed, like, what's your actual stance? It's like, well, I think it should be good. It's healthcare. So even at the end of the day, like, Claude still had to make a stance on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be, they have to play safe, right? With like cultural context nations like that they're in. So these bots are not going to be your friend on the Christian front. So I would say just keep that in mind. And again, if you're going to use it for anything relating to theology or apologetics, I would use it more as a collection and research engine, not like generating an actual response. Like, what would you say to someone, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, I do know that you are involved in abortion ministry in terms of like dissuading folks at the abortion mills and things like that. Do you use any of these tools to help you prepare for the kinds of conversations and unpredictable things that you might confront while, standing out in an abortion mill or something like that?
Well, number one, I don't go as much as I like to go. I will say that I definitely, sure. I think I've gone less this year than last year.
Sure.
It's actually something I've been convicted of, but no, I think I actually haven't. That's actually a really good idea. I think, in fact, Eli, I think, hear me out. I know we're live here. This is kind of, I think we should make a bot, a pro-choice bot, and we should just like have it to like battle and just test out. That's a great idea. I'm gonna make that tonight. But yeah, no, that's a good idea, and I think that does lead me into I think is a good idea, which I want to share, which is that on last Sunday when we did the Sunday school class, like I said, I prepped an Islam bot. Progressive Christian bot.
Islamabot. You have to Islamabot sounds
there
more
you go. I like that. Islam, yeah. And then we had atheist bot, which is like doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but Aethabot, I guess. But
Skeptabot.
Yeah, in these
Skeptabot.
Yeah, I like that. Skeptabot. And I think it went well because we had a few students in there, like the atheist one really stumped. We had these partners that were doing the atheist one, and then the progressive Christian one was tough. But guess what? Someone had the Islamabot, and he converted him on the spot.
Nice.
The bot went through the whole thing. Blah, blah, blah. He locked into the workspace salvation as the main topic. He wasn't going to let go of. And then finally, at the end, he got the bot to pray.
It's terrible.
I told them on the whiteboard, I was like, guys, I'm going to be honest. Like, does you converting an AI bot on the spot today, does it have any eternal value? Not really. Like, not to the bot, right? We're not.
Right.
But you know what it does have? It has massive, massive brownie points for the class. So like let's pay attention today. But I think that the purpose though of that, or the what I like the principle of it was that apologetics classes and even theology classes, sometimes you get in classes in general, you just miss that application. And without going to downtown Raleigh and holding up a sign saying Jesus is the only way and getting people to come up to you, right? Outside of that, we don't get that live like interaction of like someone who's like really an antagonist to the faith.
Right.
So what I want to do is I made that with Pickaxe. It's a live link too. I haven't published it yet, but I want to make that for a bunch of antagonist worldviews. Like one is like the religions, atheists, like Islam, like we just said,
They're
but
good.
also
They're
like
good.
that was a good idea.
They're good training tools. Like if you're having
Exactly, yeah. Like you're
and-
always ready. You're in the arena, like you got to practice before you get in the arena. Like that's
right.
like in like that abortion one. That's actually a really good example. Like it's not always a religion worldview necessarily. It can even be like these kind of point issues, like an abortion, like a pro-choice someone or someone that is LGBT specifically. They want to focus on that point. So I'd like to make a marketplace, and again, free as well for Christians just to be able to come in and actually like try out and try out these like, hey, what would I say? And then if they get stumped, they have co-pilots like Bahnsen basically to help them with that, so they can use AI as a tool to help build them up. And the reason why I like it is because, like in that class, they got so much intense like back and forth in such a short period of time because the AI bots always answer you. Now they're not always as intense as a real person,
right?
And they don't always give the best objections unless you train them really well. But they will give you an answer once you type it. So the thing is, you're just the feedback loop is so quick that even if it's not the best thing, whatever, you will learn so much in a short period of time just talking to a bot. That I think that's actually one of the biggest like needs in the church from the apologetic standpoint.
Speaking to a bot is a precondition to get your butt to speaking to an actual person. So if you're like, I don't know what I would say, it's like, well, if you're practicing with some of these, AI tools, you got something you could say. There are people who say similar sorts of things. You're in a conversation with someone. It's like, you know what? I do have something to say about that. So there's a danger of getting too comfortable with relying on those things. But if you use it in a healthy way, knowing those boundaries, they can be very helpful in helping you begin to think about how you might interact with someone. And then when you have those opportunities, like boom, you're off running because you've had the conversation before. You kind of know what direction you might go and maybe the relevant scriptures that you might use and things like that. And I think it can be very helpful in that regard.
I totally agree. I even think like that because it's almost like a middle point. Because if you don't do that and you just learn, you just get the content, you're teaching your family, everything's going great. And then some guy just comes up to you, at the hockey game or whatever. It's like, you know what? Like, you're a Christian, are you? You're stupid. Like, I'm an atheist. Like, let's fight, right? Maybe it's not.
I don't think that's ever happened, but yes, okay.
Yeah, let's just fight. I hate, yeah, but
I'm an atheist. Let's fight right now.
Maybe one day. But if that happens, right? You just went from I know the content, but I have not put this anywhere execution wise to executing, right? That's a huge. So I think the bot is like I can execute it's a safe environment, but it's not safe in the sense of like this bot is fighting you. It's not like, oh, that makes sense. Like I've trained these. I usually I make I call it a 5 out of 10. Like it can be converted. It's not like never gonna do it, but it's gonna push you like to your limit still of like challenging the Bible, like inerrancy, and like if you say something about the Trinity, what's the Trinity? That sounds it's gonna always do that, and that's gonna make you uncomfortable. And like even if you're chatting with it, you're gonna be like, I gotta go look this up. Like you're gonna have these moments like I never thought of that. So I think it's a really good middle ground to get there. I think if the average Christian did this a little bit throughout their year, like just like tried it out, kind of refresh. Oh yeah, that's what I would say. Whatever it is, they're gonna feel really equipped when like a real person, comes up in conversation about it.
Yeah, excellent. And obviously, unbelievers can use this as well in terms of understanding another person. Someone's like, well, what if an unbeliever's practice and responding to Christians' positions? That's fine, because what do you have as the Christian that the unbeliever doesn't have? You have the truth. So, right?
That's right.
Someone could preempt a response to a point, but if you're standing on the truth and you're able to defend the truth, then it doesn't matter. And, if people use the resources to kind of clarify and hopefully in an accurate way understand a Christian position, then that helps with communication. Obviously, nothing's going to replace real people, real relationships, actual books, like getting into the study. Because I'm a big believer in, while these tools help with kind of like shortcut streamlining certain things, there is also a great value in the time and intellectual struggle that goes into the kind of study that doesn't just get an answer to a question immediately, but that you're intellectually grappling with things. But granted, I know that not everyone has the time or the resources to go into that kind of deep study. And so they need kind of a little help along the way in terms of thinking about ideas and things like that. So this cannot replace thinking, reasoning, grappling with ideas, but it is a useful tool that can supplement that process. And when people use it that way, I think it can be a very useful tool.
I agree. And I want to I want to double up on what you just said too, because when I was at my peak of listening to Bahnsen stuff, and like other people too, it wasn't just Bahnsen,
Sure.
but like
Yeah.
that whole thing. When I have a bunch of time, just like it was like 3-4 podcasts a day in the background, watching my daughter, we're having a good time. Bahnsen saying stuff from Presup, like we're having a good time. And that's when I felt really filled up, because like intellectually, because not that I was doing everything. I could definitely have like taught my family maybe more, from what I was learning, but just myself, I was learning so much in there. And then also I have times in the morning, I used to wake up at 4 a.m. and I can listen to something and then also take notes at the same time, or just go along with it. And that was the really time consuming. Like I couldn't get through a lot of content with that. But like I was going like his Revelation series, for example. I went to Revelation 1-5, I think, of his Revelation series. And dude, like the time I wrote notes listening to him, and then I would get the story. Like this is the scripture he used for that. I would put it all in one block and I read it and like I digest it. That's when I have felt like so like just filled up from intellectually and also spiritually. I was just like, look at all, like I have it, like I get to like look at this and like think about it and like evaluate the position. Like it's just like it's like the game, right? Like it's like the game of like it's studying and like reasoning through things of like it's the very word of God, like we're talking about. That gets me. And I unfortunately, because of my life is kind of busy, I'd love to get back to that. I haven't had that in at least like over a year, like that real time to do that kind of thing.
Right.
But man, I gotta say, yeah. So I definitely think like I yearn to get that time again just to study, and then have the AI stuff help me over here for these contexts. But then I need to fill my own like supply up too.
Right.
That really only comes from you like grappling with the ideas, like you said.
Absolutely. Well, this is great stuff, man. Can you tell folks where do they go to look this up on their desktop, and if they want it on their phone or whatever, if you can let people know how they can do that?
Yeah, so for Bahnsen AI, you go to BAHNSEN. You guys should know how to spell it by now. .ai, and you can do it on your browser. On your phone, it's the same thing. What I typically do is I'll just triple check real quick. But if you have an iPhone, I can't speak for Android. But if you have an iPhone,
sorry, Android people.
I think you can.
The
iPhone, I just don't know,
the phone of the presuppositionalist. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I think they have the same feature. I just don't know like what the buttons are to press.
Okay.
But if on iPhone though, when you have it, I can even put it on the screen. You'll have it on your browser. You'll see that share button. Usually, all iPhones have some sort of share.
Let me get there too. Let me get there here. So it's Bahnsen AI.
Dot AI.
AI. All right, and boom, I'm there. Okay, Bahnsen. There we go. Bahnsen is not a replacement for reading the Bible, getting wisdom from godly people in your local church or the Holy Spirit. Use it as a tool. That's good. That's good. All right. And there's a phone on the top right. Is that the voice feature?
Yes.
Okay.
That's like the web. Like if you wanted to like a web call, and then like I said, I'll talk with the login so you guys will have it when you can log it, make your own account.
Yeah.
The account will show you a way to. You'll just have to send a text to Bahnsen, and then it'll confirm your phone number, and then you can actually just call it.
Now, two questions. So it says I clicked the 3 buttons on the right of the text box, and it says to share conversation. What's that all about? You can share the content on different platforms. Like if it gave you an answer, like, oh, this is useful. Yeah. Okay.
I can even actually, I'll just do something. I'll do something real quick just to remind myself. But
yeah,
let's see. What is presuppositional apologetics? But from what I remember when I shared this last, I believe what it does is it shares just the clip of that chat. So if you have like 10 chats, it would just whatever's in that chat thread, it'll show that as a separate link, like whatever you share it to.
Yeah.
And it makes like a copy of link. So, and by the way, everyone, I have footnotes, just so you know.
Oh, there you go. There's
I finally asked it a question.
And so you can click on that footnote. It's linkable. So you click it and it takes you right to the video. That's what it was.
Yeah, there it is. See?
Yeah.
Click it. There's the videos, guys. Anyway.
There we go.
Yeah. Let me grab that. And then if I do share conversation, copy a link, and then I'll paste it.
Do you have your own YouTube channel? Your camera is on point and your audio is awesome.
I don't have a YouTube. Well, okay. I do. I made it like last year, but that's not, I don't have the I don't have the like the Eli bandwidth to like do a YouTube channel like properly, but I do have a Substack, and I actually have a pretty basic camera. It's a Logitech.
Dude, you can do like 10-minute apologetic lessons. You just prepare something and talk for 10 minutes. Boom.
I debated I should just do a YouTube channel where I just fight AI bots, just see what happens.
That's right. Just see what happens.
Level 10 out of 10, like atheist versus Christian. It's like it's just me like on a live stream, just like, let's see what we got, guys. Let's do it. I think that'd be fun. But no, yeah, I do have a Substack. In fact, actually, I would say if you guys want, because again, I have the fathers.church one, but I am going to be releasing that one where you can like fight those AI bots. If you want updates on that, you can go to Repent Labs, REPENTLABS.com, and just subscribe. That's where I'll be sending email updates. But yeah, and then I want to get into this though. One more thing is, if you guys if you get Bahnsen on your phone in the web browser, just hit the share button if you're in the middle of your iPhone screen. And then if you scroll down, you'll see like an add to home screen. It should be right like the last, option basically at the bottom. And then you can call it. So what I'll do is I'll just call it Bahnsen so I know what it's called. I'll hit add. And then now you can see on my phone, it has a little Delphi logo, but it'll say Bahnsen. I typed in Bahnsen AI. So now it's a shortcut on your phone. That's right. What I do.
Okay.
So it's not like a mobile app, like a native mobile app. It's the same kind of principle.
Concept,
So that's the fastest thing. Or you could just, like I said, you can log in, text it, and then you can just use your phone number.
Now, when you use your phone number, someone might say, well, that doesn't sound safe. Is there any risks in sharing your number? It's like I'm giving a fake Bahnsen. I'm putting my phone number in this. Is there protection there, or is that something that people should be concerned about?
I don't have the details on that technically, but you guys can go to Delphi AI. That's the platform I use.
Okay.
And they will probably have documentation on that. I would imagine with how much funding they have, I would probably think yes, they probably have a great, awesome security thing on there. I think they have like the normal security.
It's not owned by Russia where they're over here.
No, yeah, that's not. Yeah, no, it's these Silicon Valley boys with. I want to say OpenAI backs. I think there's some big players that fund them.
Okay.
And a lot of them require pretty heavy
security,
like compliance and stuff. Most tech companies in Silicon Valley can't leave without like SOC 2 and a lot of other stuff. So I would imagine there'd be no problem with that. But I don't think you're like supposed to give them their phone number in that sense. It's more just like you text it and it's just confirming that like you received the Bahnsen, like the text back, like, hey, what's going on, Joe? Like I'm here. Like as long as that happens, then it just confirms the connection that you can just call.
All right. Very cool. Well, Joe, thank you so much, man. This has been, I made that comment about you doing a YouTube channel because when I have guests on, not a lot of times, but very rarely, someone might not be a good communicator or it's like socially awkward. I'm just saying this from a YouTuber's perspective. You have good camera presence and your voice is perfect for someone that can captivate someone's attention for a couple of minutes. So if you ever think about it in the future, man, 10 minutes apologetics, we need more people out there. So I just gonna throw that out there.
I'll run it by Kennedy. We'll see if we can get some more bandwidth on the weekend to record.
That's right.
Some videos.
That's right. Well, thanks, brother, for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. Guys, I hope you found this useful. There's a lot of resources out there. I mean, if AI is not your thing, obviously you can read books, you can listen to lectures and debates and things. There's so many different ways to study. People learn differently, right? I'm an audio learner. So the primary way that I learn, because of the way that I'm kind of designed, I learn through audio, and my life does not cater to sitting down and opening a book for a long time because I'm very busy. I've got 3 little kids at home. I work full time. My job is 45 minutes away from where I live, so I'm driving a lot. So I like things like this as a kind of a supplement to the things I'm already listening to, my audiobooks and things like that. But there are a lot of different things. I mean, if this is not your deal, pick up a book, watch some debates, listen to lectures, keep listening to this channel if it's been useful to you. But these are little tools off to the side that can be useful and they can be put to very good use, especially if you are practicing, interacting with actual people. But make sure you actually interact with actual people. That's really important.
Don't just evangelize bots.
That's right. It's like when I shared the gospel last week with a robot, like that's not part, you can't be an expert in evangelism because you evangelized and converted like 6 bots the week before. That's not how it works. But anyway, Joe, thank you so much. Is there any last things you'd like to say before we kind of close this episode here?
I just add on, I would just say, like, I think that using these tools in context, I think we do need to have maybe a more positive outlook still on AI, even though we just went through all the bad things that can happen. Sure. I do think a lot of Christians' knee-jerk reaction is like, whoa, demons. Like Come on. So I think
demons.
we can bring it out a little bit. Yes. Are demons involved? It's probably, I don't know what's going on in the demon realm. Well, here's what I do know. I do know that tools are given to us.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want no demon bot, but tools are given to us, by God. And I think that in this case, we can accurately define these as tools. I don't think we can it's only demons. Like it's a tool that has functions, and it can have good inputs and bad inputs, and good outputs and bad outputs. And when you put that in context, I think we can have a positive outlook. This is something that, as a Christian, if I use it, I can maximize doing good things with, like, unto what God has given me. And if I was not a Christian, or if I wanted to do wicked stuff with this stuff, I can also do the exact same thing in the wicked direction. So I don't think we should put a mark on this, even though I know Bahnsen is all about no neutrality. I do think we have some neutrality here. And I think we should consider that. This is the only
I harp on this channel over and over. Neutrality is a myth, man. Don't destroy it.
Yeah, just like don't like knee-jerk emotionally freak out about, I used ChatGPT for 5 minutes and like the answer came out weird, and I think it's evil, and we're gonna be possessed by demons. It's like, just chill out, guys. Like, use it as an actual tool, and if you use it enough and keep trying to use these tools, you actually probably find, like, oh, it's actually very useful when I do the correct things with it. So just have an open mind, but yeah, like don't do demon stuff too. Yeah, obviously that's just
don't. So that's the key takeaway. If you forget everything in this episode, don't do demon stuff. And with that was a very Pentecostal answer. It's like, use AI up. Esa no de Dios. You start speaking in tongues, right? You're right. It's all about how we use the internet. Obviously, can be a blessing, and it could also be used for nefarious things. And as with everything, we need to use discernment. So I very much appreciate that, guys. I hope that this has been interesting and useful for you. And let me know what you think. I mean, I don't. For this specific video, I mean, obviously people can comment whatever they want. I would appreciate no debates and side discussions. What do you think about this particular episode in terms of this as a resource and things like that? I'd really be interested in what folks, my audience, have to say about it. That'd be very useful to me. So, well, that is it for this episode, guys. Joe, once again, thank you so much. And maybe I'll get you back on here in the future for something else. How does that sound?
Yeah, for sure, man. AI is not like real stuff you actually cover. I'm not qualified for that, but definitely this stuff. Anything adjacent.
Okay, we'll see. All right. Well, until next time, guys, take care and God bless. Bye-bye.